All right. My name is Ethan. I'm the coach for MLH this weekend here at Homecoming. I'm here today with the U.S. Space Force's very own Master Sergeant Anthony B. Hartman, and we'll be talking about Master Sergeant Hartman's career path and how technology has played a role in his career and different things like that. And with that, I'll give you an opportunity to introduce yourself, and then we'll get into some questions.
Hello, everyone. So I'm Master Sergeant Anthony Hartman. I'm really excited to be here today. Looking forward to be able to talk a little bit about what I've done in the Space Force and kind of things that are setting me up for a future, possibly in cybersecurity or other potential avenues. So again, I'm excited to be here today.
Cool. And we're happy to have you here today too. So can you just explain how you landed a career in the U.S. Space Force?
Absolutely. So I spent the first 10 and a half years of my career in the United States Air Force. And after the Space Force was stood up in December of 2019, they had to come up with a way to man the Space Force. And one of the first things that they decided to do was they wanted to identify particular career fields that would be able to support the space mission and be able to enhance the overall capabilities that we need to maintain space superiority. And one of the career fields that was specific to the Space Force that they needed was cyber-centric individuals. So in May of 2020, they opened up a window for common AFSCs such as cyber individuals to apply. What I ended up doing was I submitted my application, and then from that time until December when I was notified, the leadership of both the Space Force and the Air Force got together and they made a determination of, okay, hey, let me look at this individual's record. Let me see what this individual has. Let me see the skill sets that they have. Let's see if they're translatable to the Space Force. And what they ended up doing was going through a board process, looking at the records. And after they looked at the records, they determined, okay, hey, these are the right people for the Space Force. And obviously one of the objectives also was to make sure that the Air Force wasn't hurt. So they had to weigh that carefully as well. So what they ended up doing was, again, they selected the records through a boards process. And on December 10th of 2020, I was notified that I was selected for the Space Force. And on 2 February of 2021, I transferred.
That's awesome. All really interesting. So then what is a typical day in the life of a cyber operator for the U.S. Space Force?
So a typical day really depends on what type of mission that a cyber operator is conducting that day. Every day, the mission starts out with a brief and a mission plan, right? Because you don't want to try to go in and execute a mission without some form of step-by-step process of what you want to try to accomplish for the day. If not, you might end up with some chaos or you might misstep or something of that nature. So we always want to start out with a plan. But then we have to determine based off of that plan, okay, what's our mission set? And part of that is, okay, are we going to be doing a survey mission today? A survey mission would be something that you would do when you're trying to find the baseline of what your network looks like. It gives you an idea of, okay, I have this many computers or I have this type of system. That allows the cyber operator to get a better understanding of the network so they can have a better understanding of how to defend it. Then there's also a mission set known as a hunt mission. That's when we have, open source intelligence or even intelligence from the intelligence community that says, okay, hey, we know that, this advanced persistent threat might be doing these type of actions. Maybe we should go and look for those specific things they're trying to do. That way we know that, okay, hey, we're ensuring information integrity. We're making sure we take care of our systems. And we're looking out for an adversarial action that might be taking place. Then we have another mission set that we would look at, which is the escort mission set. That mission set really is just, if we're trying to if we know there's something going on, we want to go ahead and escort and make sure that we ensure mission reliability and integrity. A prime example is where I work, we deal with missile defense and warning. So we want to be able to go in there and when we have the space warning squadrons doing their missions, we want to make sure that the information that they're going to be passing on to senior decision makers are reliable and accurate and not corrupted by any potential adversarial action.
Cool. I feel like that was a great insight into kind of what your day-to-day life is like. So in 2014, right, you were deployed to Kandahar Air Base in Afghanistan. How, if at all, did your scope of work kind of change while you were deployed?
Before I touch on the Kandahar thing, I did recall as I was talking about the day-to-day life,
of course,
I did want to put some emphasis on, what my day-to-day is like right now, because I just got to my duty station in August. I've actually spent the last 4 months in pipeline training that is teaching me how to be a cyber operator. because prior to transferring over to the Space Force, I was actually doing more IT service delivery, making sure that I'm providing the services and capabilities. I was doing tech control, which was long haul communications. So obviously, as I move into this cyber domain, more of the cybersecurity, cyber protection side, I needed to get that training that gives me a better understanding of what to do. So I've actually spent the last 4 months in that training pipeline, learning things from, Unix commands, Windows commands, different security things that we need to look for, how to establish different dashboards so we can see the different alerts that are coming in, and just learning about the overall defensive cyber operations scope. So it's been really exciting to be able to learn that and get a little bit better understanding. And, even at the rank that I am, training continues. We want to make sure that we have that understanding of what we're doing so we can really provide the cyber protection that we need.
Of course. So now I guess we can move into your experience in Afghanistan 2014, specifically about maybe how your scope of work changed while you were deployed.
Absolutely. So when I was at my first duty station, that's actually where I had the opportunity to deploy. My entire mission set was to train to deploy. So when I was stateside, we were just getting ready, gearing up. Okay, hey, we need to learn how to do this, or we need to be aware of this. And when I say this, it just means, okay, how do I provide the communications capabilities for our radar feeds, right? So that was really what we were doing on the stateside. Once I deployed to Afghanistan, that mission set, it became real world. It became operationally focused. We had to work long hours. Sometimes we were working 12 to 16 hours a day. We were working about 6.5 days a week. We had to keep making sure the mission was going on. So there was those hours that we had to work that were, at times it could be a little bit difficult, but it was definitely worth it because we got to have that what I would call the job satisfaction, because I know what I was doing out there was really making a difference in our mission and what we were trying to accomplish out there.
Right. So what do you, I guess, kind of pivoting now, what just do you enjoy most about your career?
It's a multifaceted thing that I enjoy. So from one perspective, from the technical perspective, I really enjoy the puzzle that exists in the cyber domain. There are certain career fields that have technical orders that say, okay, take this step, then you take this step, and then you take this step. It's a very step-by-step process. But in the cyber domain, those don't always exist. Sometimes you have to use your critical thinking skills. You have to really take the time to think through a process or think through what might be happening to get a better understanding of what you're looking for. Right. And that puzzle piece is just amazing because it really gives you an opportunity to use your own thinking on how you can try to execute a mission set. And that to me is amazing. But the second fold is the person side, the people side, right? So, from the lowest level all the way to the top level, you're always dealing with people. You're always trying to figure out, okay, how does this person operate? Or what do you think about this person? Or how do you make it work, right? Because again, even at the lowest level, you have to be able to work cohesively with your teammates. So you have to kind of really get to understand their personality, understand their likes, their dislikes, because that really helps the mission evolve. But at my level as a master sergeant, I also have the privilege of supervising brilliant individuals between the tech sergeants, the technical sergeants, the staff sergeants, all the way down to the specialists, right? And that to me is just amazing, being able to take care of people, getting to understand their needs, getting to understand what goes into the mission with the people aspect, because I think that's something that's very, very important. Is without the people to execute the mission will fail. So we have to make sure that we're taking care of our folks and getting that understanding of what their needs are so we can make sure the mission is successful.
Cool. That's all really interesting. So then why is your career field so important for the United States Space Force, and what kind of threats would we encounter?
That is a fantastic question. So when you think about everything that traverses the cyber domain, we are such a technologically advanced nation. Almost everything we do relies on some form of another using the cyber domain to transfer information. And it's critically important for us as a Space Force, but even just as a whole, as a nation, to safeguard that information and make sure that it's not being corrupted or attempted to be attacked by any type of adversary. But another important thing is a nation state is not our only threat. Cyber has such a low barrier to entry that we could be dealing with kids in the basement or something of that nature. Being able to provide that protection is vital to our national security interests. It's just as a whole to the nation, and going to something that the vice chief of space operations said just about a week ago. I think it came out in an article. Is our satellite systems are being attacked daily between signal blocking and jamming and cyber threats. And that is a really important piece that we play in, is we are providing the protection to our satellite systems in the cyber domain. Right. Is something that we need to continue to hone in on and focus on, and trying to get a better understanding of what adversaries might be thinking or what they're going to be trying to do. And that really is why our career field is playing such a vital role in the Space Force mission, because the Space Force obviously is providing all the different space capabilities, a lot of our different day-to-day operations, just even on the civilian side. When you go to use your phone, GPS, and you're trying to locate yourself to a new location, that is reliant on space-based systems, right? And you can't, obviously, I think we're kind of moving past the old paper maps and be able to read the paper maps, and we've become heavily reliant on GPS to get where we need to go. And our cyber operators in the Space Force are helping protect those the security of those space assets. And I think that's really what is the most vital importance of what our career field is doing.
Right. So then, can you tell us about how your actions have denied our adversaries and kept our system safe?
So I can't speak specifically to my actions. Going back to what I said previously, I just got to my unit back in August.
Right.
So, but I can speak to what a lot of the great Guardians have done in my unit. So I'm sure you remember hearing in the news back in January of 2020 when the Iranian missile was launched towards U.S. forces. So at the time that was occurring, the 2nd Space Warning Squadron was the one that was able to detect that missile and give our individuals out there in the location advanced warning, which was able to save lives. But from my unit's perspective, the 62nd Cyberspace Squadron, they were actively on console during that time. They were making sure that the data remained available and that the data was not corrupted, that the data integrity as a whole was existent, which means when the 2nd Space Warning Squadron was able to determine, okay, hey, there's a missile launch coming, let's notify our leaders. We knew that data was reliable because of what my counterparts have done at that unit. And it's just amazing to hear that story coming into this unit and being like, oh, wow, I can't believe that y'all had a hand in this, that you worked really hard, you were working long hours to make that happen. That was just a really humbling experience to me to know that some of the Guardians that I'm working with had an active hand in that.
Right, that's amazing. So one day you'll retire, separate from the United States Space Force. And what does a transition from the Space Force look like to the civilian side?
That is a fantastic question. So first, before I start talking about what it looks like, I want to kind of talk about some of the benefits that being in the Air Force and Space Force has provided me, and how it's going to help me transition. So the first thing I want to talk a little bit about is, obviously, when I joined the Air Force, I got to go through this very extensive technical training that taught me how to understand how the communications realm works, how signal flows, understanding the OSI model, understanding how encryption works, just getting a really baseline understanding of communications as a whole and the impacts that it has on cyber domain. But not only that, but I also was able to be afforded a top secret security clearance, which is a very, very, it's an awesome thing to have, especially if you're trying to transition into the civilian sector, and especially in the cybersecurity field. And then I also got a certification of Security Plus. That was all paid for as a part of my training. So that was awesome as well. But not even on the professional side, but on the personal side, I was able to pursue several different educational opportunities, which the Air Force / Space Force helped pay for. So I was able to get my bachelor's degree in technical management. Technical management obviously allows me to get it was a management degree, which allows, not only the personal people side, but I also got to learn about how to manage supply chain management, how to deal with cyber specific information, dealing with that on the management side. But then after that, I decided, okay, you know what? I really like communications, but I'm going to go ahead and pursue my next degree in something I'm passionate about. So I was able to go to Johns Hopkins University online, and I received a master's degree in government and policy. Again, because of the benefits that I received from the Air Force and Space Force, I was able to use my education Montgomery GI Bill, or in this case, post 9/11 GI Bill, to help pay for the master's degree. And something worth noting is through Johns Hopkins, it was almost about $8 to $9 grand a semester that I didn't have to pay for. So obviously that was a very, very expensive degree, but because of the efforts I was able to do in the Space Force and because of the benefits they provided me in the military as a whole, I was able to get that degree for free. And now, because again, education never stops. You always want to continue to move forward and learn and do things. I'm now working on my PhD in national security policy. And that also is being paid for because of my GI Bill. Right. And again, like the master's degree, PhDs are certainly cannot at times not be cheap, depending on what school you're going to, right? So just alone with the different benefits the Space Force and Air Force have provided me, from that perspective, I've been able to get a large amount of education. But one thing I want to emphasize is if you're interested in pursuing a degree in a career in cybersecurity, on average, most companies want about a 3 to 5 year experience in that realm, or at least similar experience. And that's entry level. So it's kind of interesting when you think about entry level that wants 3 to 5 years of experience.
Right.
That's interesting too, because again, with my career path that I've been able to follow, I have that 3 to 5 years of experience. In fact, I have about 11 years of experience. So that is beneficial to the transition to the civilian sector. And you know, as far as my personal transition, even when I retire, my objective is actually to run for office. And I want to continue to invest my time in cybersecurity and understanding the importance that that plays in our national defense. So that's my transition plan. And obviously, if I end up deciding to go that route and I do transition and run for office, my background that I've gained from the Space Force and cybersecurity is definitely going to help me in that transition.
Of course.
And it's just, I can't speak enough about the different benefits we've been able to gain from being a part of this amazing organization and the different opportunities that have been given to me because of it. You know, being able to do the IT side and now being able to transition to the cybersecurity side is just giving me that nice breadth of experience. And you know, I've been able to work at the Defense Information Systems Agency, and I've got to work at a couple of different agencies.
Right.
I've got to do deployable communications. It's just phenomenal, the different opportunities I've been given.
Yeah. So benefits and great opportunities.
Absolutely. And then obviously when I get out, I'm going to have me a nice retirement pension.
Right.
So that'll be a nice little safety net, right? That's something that's amazing there. And, you know, and even if somebody got in, they decided to do 4 years, because of the new retirement system, they're going to leave with something. It's the blended retirement system. It's a match space, kind of like a 401k type system. And, you know, they're going to have something to lean back on even if they only did 4 years. So that's something that is also really awesome.
Yeah, for sure. Another question that I have is that, like, if you could just talk about how your training and experience just has helped you improve as an individual.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So really what it's done is it's going back to one of the things I love about the job is the puzzle aspect, right? The critical thinking. The different training and experience I've gained in the Space Force has really honed my skills in thinking. How can I perceive this, or how can I see this, or how can I pivot in the event of something that I'm not quite sure what's supposed to happen, right? It's allowed me to quickly think and quickly act or maneuver around particular issues. And that's translatable across the board, right? It's not just in the cyber realm. I mean, I have 2 kids with medicine-resistant epilepsy, both of which had to get surgeries and kind of had to do a lot of hard, difficult situations. But because of that training, that's allowed me to kind of pivot away from something that I'm not familiar with and really learn how to grasp moving forward or thinking situations through. I've been able to deal with those personal issues and not get so overwhelmed that it's causing issues. So a lot of skill sets we can gain from being in the military or even in the cyber domain is transferable to everyday life. It is certainly beneficial to when you deal and encounter with something difficult in life that we can use those skill sets even outside of our jobs to help overcome those situations.
That's awesome. That's all the questions that I have. I do see one in the chat that I'm going to ask. I'm not 100% sure if you'll be able to answer it, but I'm just going to read it aloud. So is it more likely that one could transition to a triple letter agency from an officer's or non-com rank? I'm not really sure what some of the terminology is. If you're unsure, that's okay too.
Okay, I see what they're determined. So they're trying to figure out if it would be easier to transition into a three-letter agency if they were either enlisted or on the officer path.
Right.
So honestly, both tiers offer opportunities to transfer into those agencies. It really just depends on what skill set you're trying to gain. Okay. So one of the cool things about what we're doing in the Space Force is we're working side by side with our officers. They're in their day in, day out with us. They're doing the hard work. They're they're doing the same thing we are on the enlisted side. So I think it really just kind of depends on where you're stationed or what you're doing. But I think on either path that you choose, you could definitely transition into one of the three-letter agencies, especially with the skill sets you gain with cybersecurity, getting a better understanding of protecting our national defense assets. So I think it really just either way, you could transition pretty easily.
Cool. So before I let you give any closing remarks, I just wanted to say that or follow up with some resources. So I know that you can go to www.spaceforce.com and you'll be able to find your local recruiter on there. So if any of the people listening are interested in pursuing a career in the Space Force and want to get more information, I'm sure that website has a lot of great stuff on there. And if you have any more questions, you'll be able to find your local recruiter. But with that, do you have any last things to add or any last things you want to share?
Yes, actually, I absolutely do. So, again, I keep just talking about the different training and the skill sets that we can gain in the Space Force. There's a lot more benefits to that as well. I briefly touched on the education perspective. I briefly touched on dealing with and coping with everyday life because of the skill sets we gain. But I also want to just talk about the fact that what we do in the Space Force has a real world impact every day. What we're able to accomplish, how we're able to build together as a team, and how we're able to just accomplish that mission is just something that is so rewarding that you can't ever take that away from somebody. And that, to me, is just amazing. Being able to work with all these brilliant minds, these brilliant leaders, these brilliant junior guardians, it's really just a humbling experience. And, I wouldn't trade anything I've done for anything else. And I cannot speak more positively about what I've been able to do while in the Space Force and different leadership engagements I've got to attend and being able to really get to know the thought processes behind our senior leaders. So I just wanted to touch on that a little bit just because I'm so grateful that I've had this opportunity.
Yep. Well, of course, I just want to thank you for coming to be able to talk to us today. I feel like at least myself, and I'm sure the other listeners too, got some great insight about the opportunities and the great benefits that the U.S. Space Force has. And once again, thanks for your time. And with that, we'll head off. And goodbye, everybody. Thanks for joining us.